Good evening. This is a reading from the Holy Scriptures of the Jewish nation. I'm reading through a certain translation of the Christian religion. It's the Old Testament according to Christianity, the Holy Scriptures according to Judaism. Remember, Jews generally do not accept the New Testament of the Holy Scriptures. Now this is from the prophet Zechariah, who lived in Persia many years ago, shortly after the fall and destruction of Babylon, the second Babylon. First Babylon, according to general Christian understanding, was Egypt, from whence the Israelites escaped. The second Babylon was the one we actually know as Babylon, now known as Iraq and Kuwait. Now, this is Zechariah, who lived in Persia, now known as Iran. Bear in mind, this has nothing to do with Great Britain. Great Britain is a far more modern nation state and empire than Babylon the second. Now, this is to do with Mesopotamia, which was prior to Babylon, so Mesopotamia is not Babylon. Note also, Iraq and Kuwait are not Babylon. Babylon the second has fallen. Babylon the third, the Roman Empire, later translated into the Holy Roman Empire, which, as any good historian knows, was neither holy nor Roman, but rather German, and now represented by the Roman Catholic Church. That is the modern religious Babylon. In nature of politics, the Western Empire, based around Washington, D.C., the Pentagon, and the White House, are properly known as Babylon the Third, or that great whore. This, therefore, is the word of the holy Jewish prophet Zechariah. I start at the beginning, which is always a good place to start. In the 8th month, bear in mind this is the Jewish calendar, we are not talking August here, this is the Jewish calendar. In the 8th month, in the 2nd year of Darius, the word of Yahweh came to the prophet Zechariah, son of Berechiah, son of Iddo, saying, "The Lord was very angry with your ancestors. Therefore say to them, thus says the Lord of hosts, return to me, says the Lord of hosts, and I will return to you, says the Lord of hosts. Do not be like your ancestors, to whom the former prophets proclaimed, thus says the Lord of hosts, return from your evil ways and from your evil deeds. But they did not hear or heed me, says Yahweh." your ancestors, where are they? And the prophets, do they live forever? But my words and my statutes, which I commanded my servants the prophets, did they not overtake your ancestors? So they repented and said, the Lord of hosts has dealt with us according to our ways and deeds, just as he planned to do. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Let's try and stabilise this smartphone. Technology, I'm not the particularly greatest fan of technology. Let's see if we can get some light on the situation and get the camera working. There we go. Bit red. Never mind. Whoever said I was a blue fairy. Now I'm reading a book to you, which I bought from a certain shop, consumer outlet, retailer, whatever you want to call it. Let's not get fussy about words now. Now, this is where we left off from the last reading. Now, this is Watchers of the Throne, the Emperor's Legion. Now, continuing chapter 1 from where we left off last time. I'm gonna reverse a couple of paragraphs just for context and to enable you a moment to catch up. They were all at the same game, my guests. Angling, jostling, manoeuvring. And they gave me no little pleasure. As they were all stepping, to a greater or lesser extent, to the moves I had given them. I took another bite, then reached for a golden goblet of opal wine. My hands were heavy with silver. My arms draped with a cloak of thick velvet. Only as I drew the rim to my lips did I notice the presence hovering at my arm. I had no servitors in my employ. I detest them, and even now will not admit them to my chambers. All my staff were human normal, trained at the finest scholet, and destined for positions of their own within Adeptus Terra. This was one of those who had excelled. A student plucked from the Schola Havrath before he had turned 15 standard. Now my poison catcher, his blood swimming with antitoxins. Lord, he whispered softly, lowering his head. I turned to him. What is it, Gallius? Forgive me. The master awaits in your reception chamber. I did not need to ask which one. There were 3 masters among the 12. The master of the Anastromenicon, Leops Frank, would not have travelled here without warning. For he never went without an entourage of over 100 attendants, and that required planning. While the master of the administratum, to Hematolion, would have not have deigned to visit me, but would have required me to visit him. Such were the requirements and precedents that he set great store by. That left one. The master of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, Zlatad F. Kirapliatis. My heart sank. I was enjoying myself. Kirapliatis was a boor, a man, atrophied by his work and shriveled into a drab kernel of pessimism. If he had come here, it would be due to some dire portent delivered by his ranks of dream speakers. The portents scried by Keraplides were always dire. And had been since his first blinded interpreter had been bound to the God Emperor's holy will. But he was a High Lord. If he was here, then I needed to be with him. Observed Frank. For all my many sins, not even my many enemies ever accused me otherwise. Thank you, I said to Gallius in the closed speech of our household. Ensure he's comfortable. I'll be there presently. I did not move immediately. Others would have observed Gallius leaving. And to follow him too swiftly would have invited speculation. I ate some more. I drank some more. I planted a seed of gossip in the mind of the Albanius, cardinal of the Opheliate tendency, and exchanged pleasantries with the Major General of the Astra Militarium, Segmentum Command. When the time was right, when the ebb and flow of the conversation had taken its own course, I rose from my seat and pulled my robes around me. You'll have to get along without me for a little while, I said. Try not to eat everything. Or each other. While I'm gone. Then I was out into the corridors, padding along the polished floors of my domain. I was dimly aware of movement in the shadows. My cadres of close protection bodyguards hanging within a last shot range, tracking my every move. After so many years, I barely noticed them. And even had they not been clad in camellia plate, I might have forgotten they were there altogether. My aide-de-camp, Anna Mirza, Jack, fell in alongside me. Her long gown whispering over the black marble. What's going on? I asked, never breaking stride. He's flanked by his gnolls, she said, speaking quickly, as she always did. That makes things difficult. This is a guess. He's worried about Cardia. I'm worried about Cardia. I don't have much else. Run a grid search over his senior staff movements. Already underway. How many of our people do we have in the Scholastia? 37. Make contact with them all and have reports in my chamber before dawn. Already underway. I reached the doors to my reception chamber, turned to Jack and smiled. When you're done, have a drink. If there's time, Lord, she said, bowing and withdrawing. The doors opened. My reception chamber was a wonderful place. It ought to have been. I had 80 years to refine it. The objects within it were the most exquisite. The decoration, a study in good taste. On occasion, despite all these changes, I still spent time there, enjoying it. The High Lords have their own palaces, and the spires of the Senatorum are the most magnificent in the entire galaxy. But I still prefer the oasis I made there. It acts as the exemplar of the message I wish to send at all times. That we are more than guns and fury. We are an ancient species with subtle tastes. We are intelligent, and we are still here. To be continued.